So that was the one place in my brain that I didn't think that I could ever go back to. You know, like I just thought that it would be too much for me to deal with.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Remote No Pressure Podcast. Good to see you, Bill.
Good to see you, too.
It was like negative 30 degrees this week.
It was a rough week. This was a rough one. I don't know what else to say. I mean, like, parts of Michigan had minus 50 wind chill.
Isn't that insane?
I know. This was like colder, one of the coldest spots on the planet, they said. Colder than Antarctica.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, colder than the North Pole.
Oh, my God. Yeah, like even the post office closed.
I know.
Which that never
My
happens.
Amazon order didn't come until today. It was supposed to come 2 days ago.
Well, you need to go leave them a bad
Society
review.
is collapsing.
You need to leave them a bad review immediately. Cause,
I want my money back. I'm going to keep this salt for my ice, but I want my money back.
Like the patron who orders food that's bad, they eat it all, and then like, I want to speak to the manager. It's like, yeah, right. No, yeah, even the post office closed, my kids, and we can't go anywhere because they said like less than 10 minutes you get frostbite.
Yeah, it was nuts. It was a crazy week.
Yeah.
I was still out every day, and the roads were awful. It was like white out.
You were out every day.
Yeah.
It was like today it got up to 4 degrees.
Yep.
And I was like, well, I'm taking my coat off. It's like
Right now it's 13.
13.
Yeah, we're in a heat wave. It's a
Oh
balmy
my
13.
Gosh, it's time to.
I got my car washed today, and the sun was shining.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the sun all week.
I know.
And my kids have been out, my kids have been crawling the walls. We don't have a real big house.
And in 3 days, we're going to have 50.
Isn't that crazy?
I know.
That's nuts. Only in Michigan, man.
End times.
Do you remember Blood Moon? Blood Moon.
We just had that blood moon.
I know. I was waiting for a shofar to sound.
Shofar so good.
Shofar, so good. No, but God, so many only some people are going to get that joke.
Yep.
Please email me if you do, because I would love to talk to you. No, but what I was going to ask you is, were you a skater like in the 90s?
I was not. I was a country boy. I was a tractor driver.
You drove a tractor?
Yeah.
What kind of tractor was it?
Oh, we had John Deere most of the time.
There's a big John Deere dealership up there, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a couple. Yeah. There's one as we were driving through back from the north.
Oh, yeah.
We drove by a New Holland dealership in my hometown.
That's right.
But there is a John Deere one just about 5 miles up the road. Yeah.
And those things are like $100,000, $200,000. They're
Depending
not
on what model you want, yeah. Or if you just want like a nice little $50,000 one to putz around a lawn,
Right. for snow removal.
Yeah, that's what my dad had. But, he had a fully heated, air-conditioned tractor for the lawn and snow removal.
That's awesome.
That was the way to do it.
Yeah, we have, like I've said before, we live in a cornfield, so I think the guys out here use GPS a lot. Like something that drives their tractor for them.
Yep.
And that way
I've heard of that.
Yeah, they maximize their yield on it. It's pretty crazy. And they have like a co-op, so a lot of the farmers share the equipment.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But the reason I asked is because I was a skateboarder growing up, and I remember like I really sucked. Like I could, because I had a busted hip, and I figured out how I could ollie because my left foot's on the back. So like the way my hips are, like I can do that.
And an ollie is
when you get all 4 wheels off the ground at one
Gotcha.
time. Yeah, you have to like slide your right foot up and everything. But
yeah, that's tricky. There's some technique in there.
it is a talent. I mean, there's some people that are just naturally gifted.
Yep.
know?
I am not athletically gifted when it comes to stuff like that. I'm clumsy.
Not naturally.
Nope, not naturally.
There's some people that are.
Yeah.
It's like we know a particular famous musician that we both know pretty well.
Yep.
That we used to hang out with a lot. I'm not going to say his name.
Steven Tyler.
No, she's gone on. We never really hung out with her, with Steven Tyler. Doesn't she look like your grandma sometimes? Like some of the stuff. Anyways, so so we used to hang out with this guy, and we're not gonna say his name, and probably only 10% of you would know him. He's not that famous, but I swear he was almost like it was like a brilliant mind or something. Mm-hmm. Like he had no personal skills, nothing with people, but he was a brilliant musician.
Yes.
Just naturally
like
talented.
He came out of the womb that way.
Yeah, and like no matter how
His whole
much
family was that way too, though.
Oh yeah, we know.
Yep.
It's genetic or something.
Yeah.
And like no matter how hard I practice guitar, I will never have his chops.
Yep.
It's like if I practice from the time I was a kid until now, I practice every day basketball, I would never be Michael Jordan.
Yep.
So Casey Badger is with us this week, and he is a BMXer. BMX biking.
That's another skill I never mastered.
Oh, I don't.
And that's like a fixed gear bike, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a little bike, the same one that my 9-year-old rides. No, I'm serious. It's like, and when I bought his bike, they're like, yeah, some people like to BMX on this thing, and I'm like, no way, I can't see that,
Wow.
but he does. This is
That
the
is
same
a
size.
skill.
Yeah, he said I started riding that one, and I just kind of kept with it. So
I took a fixed gear bike around Mackinac Island.
8
And-
miles.
Yep.
8 miles.
And that was like by the end of the island. I was a big dude then too. This was almost 10 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And my knees were killing me, and then my chain popped off the last mile, and so I had to walk it.
Gosh,
I had to walk
for
it.
a mile.
But I was all right with that because that my quads were burning.
Oh my gosh. Well, like I went on this summer. Well, we had John Aarons on a couple weeks
yeah,
ago.
yeah. You two went on a field
Yeah,
trip.
we went on a field trip to Mackinac Island. We went on a field trip together with our children. So we went to Mackinac Island, and it's like, oh, it's only 8 miles. It's like, oh, great.
Let's just go for a walk.
And now, mind you, we're with like 4 of these kids that are 9 years old that are super active.
Yep.
Like they could probably do 20 miles. They don't even feel
They'll
it.
lap you.
So we're like driving. I'm trying to keep up with them, and then they're stopped. Like they were like probably 100 yards in front of us, and I noticed that they're stopped. And like my thighs are just like burning, and I'm like, it's like trying to gasp for air. And we pull up to them. We're like, what are you kids doing? They're like, we want to climb. It's like there's this summit there. It's like 300 stairs.
Oh, up to the fort.
Yeah. No, not to the fort, but to that like rock thing. You can go up there on a horse
that
and
like
buggy.
the lookout?
It does look out, but it's like
On the very top of the island, kind of. They used it as they had a fort area up there, but it wasn't Fort Mackinac or whatever it is.
yeah, something like that. It was like all these stairs, and they wanted to climb it, and I'm like, I can't move. Like I literally, if I get off the bike and I stop,
Here,
I
take
will
my phone and
not.
take some pictures.
I will not get back on. Like, yeah, don't talk to any. Like, go ahead and go, but don't talk to strangers.
Well, if they grab you, they got to come down eventually.
We're on an island. We'll
Yeah,
find you.
yeah.
We'll find you. No. Yeah, that's when I invoke. Well, we need to let kids have some freedom. That's what you say. It's really the excuse, like not to die. They yell at me, but like, look, I got free range children. I let them.
Survival of the fittest.
Yeah, exactly. As I'm literally dying at the bottom of the stairs. No, but that was a great trip. But what were we saying? Oh, so we rode around for 8 miles, and it almost killed me. But what KC does is he jumps these huge things, and like it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
I would
that's crazy,
die.
Yeah.
I would immediately break something the first. Did you play Excite Bike when you were a kid?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
On
like,
NES.
Yeah, of course we played that, but I didn't like really buy.
No. Far too physical for me.
Far too physical. So it was really cool to have him. So check out his Instagram, but he's also a phenomenal fly angler as well. He's engaged to Kayla Lockhart, who was episode 1 this year.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so he's a really cool guy, an awesome fly angler, and we talk a lot about his culture, and he's really into like subcultures and things like that. And when you listen to, what attracted him to fly fishing, because it's kind of a unique subculture, and I started wondering, is that genetic? Are you attracted to subcultures genetically? Because his dad was, well, I can't give away the interview, but
yeah.
it's like,
save it for the
yeah,
save it for the podcast.
I know.
Save it for the interview.
But it was really cool to hear. And
Yeah.
so we're super happy that he gave us his time. Welcome to the podcast. Let's light the fire.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, Casey, one of the top performing episodes that we've had this season is with Kayla Lockhart. And you're pretty close to her, aren't you?
I'm about as close as you could physically and mentally get at this point, I think.
Well, she said you would be a great guest, and I've been looking forward to reaching out to you. You have some awesome content. Not only are you a talented artist, as what you're drawing and things like that, but you're also an incredible fly angler, and also you're into. Is it called BMX biking, or because you're doing tricks and stuff, is it called something else?
No, it's still BMX.
BMX, okay.
A 20-inch little kid's bicycle.
Yeah, that's what my kid rides, and I read that he has a dyno. I think it's what it is, but it's like it's a pretty nice bike. And I read that a lot of people like you prefer that smaller bike. Why do you like the smaller bike versus a full size bike?
I mean, I started riding that size bike like every other kid, and then when I was 8, I started racing that bike on bicycle tracks. So BMX is short for bicycle motocross. So basically that style bike was made to emulate a smaller motocross bike without a motor, obviously. So think of like a motocross track with jumps and berms and all that stuff. So I started racing on that stuff when I was 8. And then I kind of just evolved out of it and just wanted to do tricks and evolved into riding skate parks. And I guess I just never evolved out of that size wheel set until, I guess recently I've kind of been bigger bike curious, I suppose.
Well, in my hometown in Texas, just south of Houston, we had a bike shop called McDowell's. And in the front of the store, there were like 10 speeds and 21 speeds and like all these mountain bikes. But in the back section, and you wouldn't know it if you didn't know it was there, but it was almost like the adult section of a video store. Like no one knew who was going in and out of there. And we'd have to like go through this little door, and then all of a sudden it was a BMX room and a skateboarding room, and there was a skate park in the back, but it wasn't advertised anywhere.
Yeah, I've actually been there before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I used to ride BMX bikes professionally, so part of that would be we would do tours and shop stops and such. So we stopped there on one lovely Texas trip, if my memory serves me correctly.
Really?
Yeah, I do remember walking into a bike shop that didn't seem like it had BMX stuff, and then discovering that there was a little skate park in the back with BMX and skate stuff. So, I mean, unless there's more of those in Texas, which there very well could be, I think I've been to that one.
It could be, but it's like this unique subculture that I mean, I remember, I grew up in a different time, so we watched a lot of skate videos. I was a skater, so I wasn't a very good skater, okay? But I could ollie, and that was about the most I could do. But I thought it was really cool when I was in middle school, to go there. Like, we had these videos that were really grainy, and we'd have them on VHS, and we trade these videos. But it was really a subculture, to skating into regular biking. Do you enjoy being part of a subculture, kind of a counterculture? And are you seeing that as kind of a trend for people in your generation who are wanting to kind of buck the system?
I'm trying to think of how to answer this. Yeah, I mean, of course, I enjoy being part of a subculture. I guess my bigger part is that I don't know any different. Like I did play team sports when I was growing up, and that, the team aspect of it kind of pushed me away from it, and I didn't want to depend on anybody else to have my fun. So I think that's what kind of led me to doing an individual sport like riding bikes and snowboarding and skateboarding and all, the subculture stuff that I've been involved in my whole life. But I think because of that subculture has led me into other subcultures, like smaller music scenes and all of these little subcultures that kind of depicted the way that I grew up and the way that I became an adult, even, and how the choices I've made into the jobs that I have and how I live my life. I think it's all derivative from, the decision to be a part of those subcultures.
Now, did you grow up there in Washington, or?
No, I grew up in Phoenix. So I lived in Phoenix until, I don't know, Kayla and I moved out here 4 years ago, but I live in Portland now, but I would move to Portland every summer from when I was 22 until I was about 30. Just, I just rode bikes, and I had some college in there. So I would come out here for the summer and escape 120-degree temperature where it's 70 degrees here. And all we would do is ride skate parks and go to the bar every night. And it was great. So I had to make a choice of whether I wanted to live in Phoenix or here full time, and I had an opportunity to move up here, so I took it.
Does your family still live in Phoenix, or?
Yeah, my mom is still in Phoenix, and all of my close-knit friends are still in Phoenix for the most part. So, I would say my family is definitely still there.
That's great. Do you go back often, or is it something like holidays and?
Yeah, we just go back for holidays. Mm-hmm. Caleb loves Arizona, and so I always joke that because she said that she wanted to move there when I was moving here, and that was kind of how we got together more officially. We did a little bit long distance, but she's like, I want to move to Phoenix. And I was like, well, I'm moving to Portland. If you move to Phoenix and I leave, I'm going to be pissed. But she, we did long distance, so she would come out and visit me from Minnesota, and we started dating long distance in winter, and it lasted, a little bit into the summer before we just jumped the gun and moved to Portland. So she had never been to Phoenix when it's, over 85 degrees.
Right.
So she just had this mental picture that it's this, utopia in the desert, that it's perfect out all the time. So one year for my birthday's in July, she bought tickets to go back to Arizona, and I was like, yes, you're going to finally see how brutal it actually is.
Well, she
learned quick.
She comes from a pretty hardcore area from Minnesota, right? So she's extreme cold to extreme hot,
right. Yep.
But why do you
exactly? So we do that. We Christmas in Arizona and go to Minnesota in the summer.
That's the way to do
family.
it. That's the way to do it, right? Because Minnesota summers are beautiful. They really are. So my question to you, though, Casey, is, you're into skating and biking, also BMX, and then also some motocross, or I've seen some pictures and videos of you doing motocross, and also fly fishing. And, I've noticed a lot of people, in your generation that are changing the face of fly fishing, and they're kind of attracted to that old school subculture. When you found, how did you find fly fishing, Casey? How did you come across that? Through Kayla, or?
No, so growing up, my father and I did everything together, he's why I ride motorcycles. He's what, led me, and he was very supportive. So when I said I wanted to go race BMX bikes, he found the track the next day. And, part of what he also loved to do is that he loved to go fly fishing in Arizona for trout. So I started fly fishing when I was around 7, just going on trips. And I was a pretty hyper kid, so I couldn't just sit there and stare at the end of my line and wait for the trout to eat the worm or watch the bobber, So I would usually annoy my father if he was fly fishing and I was, getting too hyper to sit there and stare at it. So instead of him just giving up on going fishing with me, he just taught me how to fly fish. And it was perfect for me at that time because you're always doing something, you're casting, you're stripping, there's so much to learn. There's, seemingly at that point in my life, there was so much more to learn about it than putting the hook on the worm and watching the line.
Now, is your father still alive, Casey, or?
My father is not alive. He passed away to cancer a few days after I turned 18.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a pretty, from when I was 7 till my dad passed away, we did, as much together as we physically could. We went fishing and riding dirt bikes and, as my memory serves me, almost every weekend, if we could, So when he did pass away, I sold my dirt bikes. I didn't go fly fishing. I had put all the fly fishing stuff up in my mom's attic, and I kind of did those things that reminded me so much of my father, and I kind of put them on the back burner, and in my BMX bike kind of became my psychologist, that's all I did is I just rode and I put all my effort into that, and then it kind of got me through that, that pain and that mourning period. And it took me about 10 years or so before I picked up a fly rod again, and then it was kind of funny. I had a bunch of friends and we were supposed to go camping, and we were going camping to a lake in eastern Arizona that I had been to thousands of times with my dad, So I was familiar with the lake from growing up there, and I went to my mom's and I found all the fly fishing stuff, and I just thought that it was going to give me something else to do other than just get drunk and party with my friends camping, I needed something different than just doing that. So picked it up. We went camping. One evening, I just grabbed the fly rod out, and I'm like, I don't even know if I still know how to cast this thing. The adage of it's like riding a bike kind of paid to it's like casting a fly rod. I didn't forget any of it. I could cast fine, and I caught a fish right away, and I caught fish all night. My friends were like, how the hell do you know how to do this? And I'm like, I used to do this when I was a kid, this is all I used to do. And it from that moment on, I was completely obsessed with fly fishing again. It was funny because at that point, it was when I was slowing down riding bikes a bunch and traveling and doing that for a living. And I was, kind of figuring out where my path was going, so to speak. And it's not that I didn't love riding. Sorry, dog.
No
It's not that I didn't love riding my bike so much. At that point, it's just I that's all I did. I had that hobby, and that was my main focus, and that's all I did. So finding another hobby that I could be as passionate about as I was about the bike was a huge thing at that time in my life. And I, I'm kind of a obsessive personality when it comes to things that I really enjoy. And so from that moment on, I was just obsessing about fly fishing and learning all I could about it and revisiting all the places that I'd went with my dad. And, that was the time social media started, and that was like a good bump too. I could learn from others through social media about what to do, where to go, what not to do, etc. So
Wow.
It was an exciting time.
We had, I don't know if you listened to the podcast, but we had Brian Gregson on the podcast here this season, and his father passed away when he was very young. And so, he was like 17 or 18, and he packed all of his stuff up and left and moved to Hawaii and surfed, and was like, I can't, I can't imagine dealing with that at such a young age. You talked about partying, getting drunk with your friends, and riding your bike. Did you feel like you were just running away from those things that you were trying to deal with, like with your father and whatnot?
No, I didn't really start partying until I was into my 20s.
Okay.
I honestly, 100% of my brain distraction was my BMX bike. And it had just perfectly worked out in my life that, I always tell Kayla or whoever that my philosophy is that things kind of get put on you for a reason, and things work out for a reason. So after my dad passed away, about 4 months later, I got my first major bike sponsor, who I still actually am sponsored by in a roundabout way. But I just got that sponsor, and then the ball kind of started rolling from there. I won my first professional contest the November after my dad passed away. My dad passed away in July. I started traveling right thereafter. I started college and had to kind of dictate my time between how much I could travel for riding bikes and how much I had to stay at school to continue on with my education. So, I was busy. Between school and traveling and riding bikes, and, not that riding bikes ever seemed like a job to me, but, if someone says, hey, do you want to go on a trip for 14 days? I'm going to say, yeah, no matter what.
For sure. When you started fly fishing again, did it bring back a lot of memories? Was that a tough transition for you, or was there this pull to it that it's like a warm blanket? It's like you're back home again with your dad. Was it what was that like that first time you went back with your friends emotionally, or was there no
weird.
emotion at all?
No, yeah. The first time I went fishing and everything, there wasn't really that much emotion. There was emotion of grabbing the fly stuff, and it was reminding me of the times that we did. But when we were there, I was just, focused on fishing. And I didn't really think about it until Kayla and I went to Lee's Ferry, which is the very top of the Grand Canyon under Lake Powell. That was my dad's favorite place on earth. If we could go to one place and we had the time to do it, that's where we would go. He loved it so much that that's where we ended up putting his ashes after he passed away. So that was the one place in my brain that I didn't think that I could ever go back to. I just thought that it would be too much for me to deal with, or just, those memories, that's where I thought they would be not a bad memory, but I think they would have been a tough thing to deal with. So a couple of years ago, Kayla had never been to the Grand Canyon. She'd always mentioned that she wanted to go. Obviously, I know that Lee's Ferry is an amazing fishery. It's kind of, we could do two birds with one stone. We could see the Grand Canyon, and then we could go fishing, and it was perfect. But I had to warn her at first. I was like, I might get really weird, just to let you know. She knew the whole story, obviously. Sure. So when we got there, it was pretty crazy. I, of course, had all the memories and of spreading his ashes on the bank and and all the times that I was there with him and growing up going there with him and all of these great memories. And I thought that, you know, like if I went back that maybe I wouldn't be able to remember those. And that was a fear. And another fear was that like if I kept going back that I would just put memories on top of memories and they would get muddled or something. You know, I was afraid of losing memories with my dad. And that wasn't the case at all. You know, like I got to show Kayla, you know, my obviously one of the most special places on the earth to me. And it was like the perfect experience to me. Like it was great. The fishing on that first trip kind of sucked, but that's fine.
It kind of all full circle, huh? Just not only did you not lose the old memories, but you were making new ones.
Yeah, exactly. And that was what was, I think, was so special to me is that I could show Kayla something that was taught to me as being such a special place. And I could show her exactly what I was taught that's so special about it. You know, like it really is. It's a really unique place in general, not to mention that you catch trout in it, which is just an added bonus.
Well, I hope you guys are enjoying this episode with KC. What a great guest. I'm so happy that he's so grateful that he joined us this week for the episode. Be sure to, I just wanted to take a minute from the podcast just to let you know about a few things. Number one, big shout out to Paul Puckett and the boys over at Flood Tide who are offering our listeners 25% off when you type in remote no pressure at checkout. Super big thanks to them. So be sure to go to floodtideco.com and check that out. Also, be sure to check us out on all of our social platforms on Instagram, Facebook, and all that. We always appreciate it. And also leave a review as well. A couple upcoming things. We have the fly fishing film tour coming up. We'd love to join you here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. If you're at all interested in hooking up with the Remote No Pressure crew, send me an email or a message on Facebook or on Instagram or Jeff T at remotenopressure.com. We'd love to hang out with you and have the crew there at the Fly Fishing Film Tour on Wealthy March the 2nd here in Grand Rapids. We'd love to have you part of that. So let's get back to the podcast. Fly fishing is a subculture. Do you think that your dad was kind of attracted to subcultures as well? Is that where you get it from? Or did he just like fly fishing?
No, my dad was, I think my mom kind of gives me crap now that I've just turned into my dad. So my dad grew up and he raced dirt bikes and he was a downhill ski racer in Utah. Wow. I was born in Utah. So he was a downhill ski racer. He was a pothead. He was every subculture from the, late 60s into 70s that you could think of. He listened to, like, even now I look back, he like listened to Nine Inch Nails and Marilyn Manson and all these crazy bands. And he also listened to like good Led Zeppelin and, 70s bands and 80s bands. But I learned a lot from him, and I kind of, like you were touching on, I do think that because of his love for these smaller niche cultures, I think that it really opened my eyes to what else was out there, And he was 100% supportive of anything that I could want to do. So I think he was just happy to see that I like to do anything.
Do you have any siblings, Casey, or not?
I have a half sister that lives in just north of Seattle, and I have a half brother that lives in Las Vegas.
Okay. Are they from your father or from your mother's side?
They're both from my father, and either of them don't really know my father.
Okay.
My sister was really young when my dad passed away, and my brother his mom had custody.
So your two siblings from your dad, do they have similar traits? Even though they didn't know your father, do they? I mean, I don't know how close you are with him, but are they really kind of into the subcultures as well, or do you really not know? I'm not sure. I know my brother is, and I don't know my brother very well at all. I've met him a handful of times, and I think he's about 30 now, which is bad. I don't even know how old he is. But he kind of is. He likes like funny, like not funny. He likes really, I'm trying to think of the word to say it, like small subcultures of music is the stuff that he's into, and really obscure bands and stuff like that is his little niche of the stuff that he likes. And my sister is just super artistic. I think that he got, like, both of us got that from my dad. Mm-hmm. She's one of those artistic people that can just kind of do whatever she puts her mind to, which is pretty awesome to see. That's really cool. So do you think that is like your desire and the way you are, with the subcultures, your artistic talent, your love for biking, and all these your passion for life. Because it sounds like your father had a real passion for life. No matter what he did, he was passionate about it. Do you think that's more genetic, or do you think that's like kind of a nature versus nurture thing, or do you think it's because you grew up in the household with him that you're like that?
I think it's a learned reaction to how I grew up. Like, just because of how much my dad basically told me that I had to be outside and doing things, and we would be outside and doing things, and I would learn by example, like one of my earliest memories of life is riding on the gas tank of his YZ250, like if it just was normal for me to always be outside doing things. So I think that, figuring out more ways to be outside and to find a sport or a lifestyle or whatever it is that allowed me to express myself in those ways. I think that wasn't, I don't think it was a genetic thing, as it was just, that's how life was and will continue to be.
It sounds amazing. It really does. It sounds like your dad really instilled into you, because a lot of people don't live life to the fullest, Casey. You know that. And it sounds like your dad really instilled that into you.
Yeah, I'd like to believe so, for better or for worse, like I definitely don't choose career paths that make me a bunch of money, but I choose career paths that allow me to live the lifestyle that I love. Right.
So I'll ask you a question too, just to kind of change the subject. That's maybe not so personal, but as we're seeing, used to, when you go into the Orvis shop or a fly shop, it was a bunch of old men, tying flies, shooting the breeze, talking, patterns and fishing and stuff like that. But now what we're seeing, we have iron fly, we have a lot of these things that are coming out. In your generation, these guys are wearing flat bill caps, covered in tattoos, fly fishing, Well, what's going on with that? Why do you think that is? What do you think is going on?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think there's a big push in, our youth culture. Everything kind of goes in a pendulum, like maybe 10 years ago, what was cool was playing video games and sitting around your house and working. And that was what was instilled on that generation. And everyone now, I believe, is kind of going away from that and finding themselves and finding the outdoors and finding what makes them happy in that aspect. And I think the other side of that is, I think that the fly fishing culture is reacting to what you just said about how it was just an old man's club. It was just, fly fishing was seemingly just a sport for old gentlemen to do, and they had very strict rules and all of that kind of came along with the culture of the time, and everything's a reaction to that. So now that you said we have like flat bill hats and there's no dress codes and the culture is changing, I think fly fishing is figuring out that earlier generation is obviously getting to a stage where they can't fly fish anymore, and they're kind of starting to go away, and it's fly fishing as a sport and as a lifestyle is evolving into a younger man's sport, younger women's sport, even more so these days, which is amazing. I think that it's really cool to see fly fishing kind of see that as something that they should help along with, and there's very influential individuals like Jay Johnson that does iron flies and some companies that will get behind that youth movement, like Redington, obviously. I think that they do a great job of seeing the lifestyle of that and seeing how cool fly fishing really is. Like, obviously we do fly fishing because we all love it. Why not, in my eyes, why not show it to more people that are like-minded to people like me? And so I think that, fly fishing at this point is doing a much better job with making it much more open to newcomers and people of different backgrounds and lifestyles.
I compare it, Casey, to someone who, I don't know if you've known anyone who's ever found religion and they're just like all of a sudden really fired up and they can't wait to tell you about it and try to convert you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like, oh
Yeah,
my
that's
God,
a great analogy.
you know, my life has been changed. You got to come to church or whatever with me, you know? And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
dude, just relax, you know, just chill out. And you're like, they'll like calm down in a few months, you know? But with
Yeah.
fly fishing, I feel that way because I found it a few years back. I wasn't raised fly fishing. I was fishing spinning gear my whole life. And I found it and I'm like, holy crap, I got to tell everybody about it. You know, it's changed
Right.
my life, you know? And it seems like Aaron Reed, I don't know if you know him or not, but he was on this season as well. He sent me a book called, I think it's called The Last Child in the Woods. And it's a book about basically my generation, you know, my parents, we were free range kids, man. I mean, my parents put me out and I was 7 years old and we had a big forest and we lived on a lake and my mom didn't see me, you know, during the day, and she didn't come calling for me. She didn't come looking for me. It was like, and I was sick.
You know, it should hopefully help us in the future as far as conservation and keeping these places public. I think that it, you know, once you get the youth behind something, that there's numbers in the youth, and hopefully going forward, that culture will change as a mass, and we'll be able to enjoy the outdoors for generations to come.
I'm a hardcore libertarian, Casey. Like that's where I am. That's where I am politically. Okay.
Yeah.
And so the national forest and the national parks are a very hard thing for me to wrap my mind around, because I don't think the government should be involved at all. But when it comes to preservation and like these national forests and keeping it public, like that's so important. So how do you get your mind around like government stay out of my life, but yet I want them to preserve? And a lot of it was because of, you know, Ken Burns. I don't know if you know him, but he makes documentaries, and he made one about the national park system. Did you ever see that? Yep,
I've seen that.
Holy crap, that changed my life. I'm like, thank you, Teddy Roosevelt, you know, for what you did, you know. And now as we're seeing the population increase and get bigger, and, you know, I just interviewed a brain surgeon from Brussels, okay? And he can't just go fly fishing. He's got to go to England and go fly fishing, because there, if you own property on a river, you own the river too, and all the fish inside of that river and all this. So you can't just go fly fishing in your backyard. And I'm like, you know how many public places I have in Michigan that I can just go, you know, within 10 minutes and I'm on a lake, or 20 minutes on a river, you know? And it's like, holy cow. So as we're seeing population growth and we're seeing all these people, like, you know, I live in a cornfield and houses are just coming, you know, surrounding me everywhere. And you know, it's so important for me to see those things protected. And I think, like you said, especially with social media, guys like you and Kayla and all this great, cool social media from your generation is so awesome and so important, because number one, as you know, we've seen mental illness and depression and all these things, you know, this is a cure for those things, you know? So we're not just conserving it so we can have access to it. I think it's a public health issue, you know?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It's a quality of life issue. It's, you know, like you said, public health. There's a lot of benefits to being able to go outside of the city and do things, which I think like goes back to what we started this conversation, is that, you know, that's what everyone's seemingly finding out about at once.
Right. And it's awesome. It's great to see. And I've got a love-hate relationship with social media, I think, because I'm an old fart, you know?
I do too. It's cool.
Yeah. You know, it is. It's a weird thing, but yeah, like the podcast is out there and people listen to it because they see stuff on social media, and we're getting the word out, and that's important, you know? But I have yet to take a selfie with duck lips, though.
Hey, there's always time in the future, you know.
Well, none that's public. My wife may or may not have a couple of those.
Those are for blackmail.
Those are for blackmail. But I've got some on her too, so she's not going to release anything. But man, I really appreciate you spending time with me, Casey. If people wanted to contact you or get in touch with you or follow you on social, where would they do that, Casey?
My Insta is just at my name, so at KC Badger, like the animal. And that's probably the only one that I really keep up on. I don't really do Facebook as much anymore. You know, there's a whole slew of other new social medias, but that's the major.
All right, great. Well, we'll put the link up there so if people don't follow you already, we'll put the link up there for that. Is Casey Badger your real name?
It is my real name. My official name is Kelly Sandy Badger, so Casey is initials, but I'm a junior. That was my father's name, and it was my mom's ultimatum that I would never be called Kelly. I would go by Casey. And she, to this day, is really serious about it. If someone calls me Kelly, she's the first person to fire out, "It's not his name."
Well,
which is my name, which is great.
Badger's a great name. My last name is Troutman, and I host a fishing podcast, and that's my real name. And so
awesome.
We had our local Fox News crew come out to do a thing on the podcast and everything. This has been like last September. And they're like, "Is that your real name?" They took a picture of my diploma, like my college degree on the wall, because no one in the newsroom really believed my last name was Troutman. I'm like, that's my real name, people. But anyways, well, hey, thanks for taking time with me, Casey. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was good to talk to you.
Well, thank you, Casey, and thank you for joining us on another episode of the Remote No Pressure Podcast. Be sure to sign up for our email list at remotenопроpressure.com. Check us out on our social. And as always, please leave a review. It helps out tremendously. And until next time, go fishing.